Hey, when people say, times have changed, things have changed, and cars have changed since, 50 years ago or whatever, I think people have changed. So I was cleaning out my mother's attic. I found the owner's manual of my father's 64 Chevy Bel Air, right?
Wow.
So I'm looking through the manual. The most impressive thing was a section on how to adjust the valves. So just for fun, I looked for that section in my car.
Yeah.
Owner's manual. Nothing about adjusting anything, but in big black letters on page 1, it warns you not to drink the battery acid.
Don't you own a Tesla?
No, I don't. All right, guys, so we have 9 stories, so we're going to cram the first 5 in the first half of the show. So let's start with this one from Signia. Who wants it? China Nexus threat group Velvet Ant exploits Cisco Zero Day to compromise Nexus switch devices. Advisory for mitigation and response. I didn't understand 5 words of that.
You understood China and group.
Threat
exploit.
I think you know what Velvet is.
And
Velvet.
There was a 2 in there.
Seriously, what is this all about?
So basically, switching is very important. Switch devices. We actually have another article about switching.
Yeah.
In a little bit, but switches are very important for networks, segregating networks, virtual private networks, all that stuff. And so you want to protect them. They're very highly important piece of information. Of hardware, and Cisco makes a lot of them. Yeah. So this is a specific set of Cisco hardware, and there was a CV that came out on July 1st. And we're seeing a Chinese advanced persistent threat using it. Now, as we are wont to say, I don't think this is as big a deal because you do need administrative access to the device before this works.
Right.
So it's basically from what I've gathered, and Dwayne can back me up, it's a jailbreak. You're basically going to overwrite the OS or modify the OS, and you've got control to do things that you normally couldn't get the switch to do.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And typically what you're looking to do, especially with these types of devices, if you can gain low-level access to them, from there, you're going to want to put some sort of what we call either an implant or a beacon, something along those lines, inside that particular device. So it's going to run and then call back out to us. So sometimes we'll do it with switches, firewalls, that sort of stuff. Sometimes it ends up being like Android TVs we'll install code on and have it beacon back out to us so we can garner access to the networks. In this particular case, this is a very similar thing where they're putting shells out on these legitimate devices by exploiting the 0 day.
But this is not the only story today about advanced persistent threats from China. Right. And so I think that's a growing risk.
So I noticed that there's a CVSS score attached of 6.0, which is medium severity. But what would you say the STW contagion score would be?
Honestly, if it were me, I would say it's probably like a 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's important, but it's not that important.
I'm glad they didn't make it like a 9. Because total control, but they're finally, coming around to the fact that it's, you need to have administrative access in order to do it.
Right. I still think there should be an official contagion score.
Well, heck yeah.
How likely are you to get this?
There is. It's ours.
Well, yeah. It's kind of ad hoc though. I mean, we're a podcast.
Hawk.
Yeah. And really, I mean, you're absolutely right, Patrick. You have to have admin. It has to be running a particular version of software. You in this Versa director have the ability to upload an icon, and then you can compromise it. So like I said, I'm sticking with my 3 to 4. 3 to 4.
Yeah, I think that's solid.
All right, so the next story, Sonic Wall warns of critical access control flaw in Sonic OS. I always thought Sonic had the best burgers, but McDonald's still has the best fries.
They have pretty good firewalls too.
But Sonic has apparently the best ice, and so when I looked at it, people drive for Sonic for ice.
Really?
This is a real thing.
Okay. No,
because
explain their ice, because I like ice, but I don't.
Well, it's like at the perfect temperature so that it's not melty, but it crushes. Like you're not going to break your teeth on it.
Huh?
You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Isn't 0 Celsius the perfect temperature for ice?
You would think.
Completely frozen. I don't know. Maybe they jack it with chemicals. I don't know. But Sonic. All right. Maybe. So anyway, Sonic is what in this world?
Sonic Wall is a firewall. And Sonic OS is the operating system. Now, Dwayne rips these things apart all the time. So
I love tearing these apart.
Anything, any feedback on Sonic OS? Is it got squash basis or is it Linux?
It is. So, a lot of these devices, these firewalls are running typically a small little Linux kernel, right? You're not going to put Windows on them because we all know Windows. It requires like 85,000 processors and 2 trillion gig of RAM. Yeah. So Linux runs a lot tighter, right? So you can have Linux on TVs and, all sorts of small embedded devices. And it's the same thing for firewalls, switches, routers. They're all running this small, light Linux kernel. Right. Typically, we call it a squash FS because that's one of the ways to package a Linux kernel into a device like this. Interestingly enough, most of these devices don't support all of the normal Linux commands we may use to take over a device, like netcat and that sort of stuff to get full reverse control of the device. However, because they're these small embedded systems, you can put what's called BusyBox on there, which is like all of the Linux commands you'd ever want in one utility, one executable, which is awesome. So you just copy that thing around and you have full control. But that being said, honestly, Sonic Wall's been really good. Anytime we have a customer using Sonic Wall, we always have customers want us to review firewall policies, tear apart different devices and that sort of stuff, and they've usually do a really good job. So
now when you say it's really good, what does that exactly mean?
I know, right? For me, it's good for the Defender. Honestly, they're pretty ubiquitous devices, and the security rating on them, like my firewall of choice. Some people have like wines that they like these are the top wines that they love, or whatever it may be. Like if you're a car guy like this, you may have like the creme de la creme of a car, whatever it may be. For me, it's firewalls, and I have to say the Ubiquiti firewall is amazing, but Sonic Wall is not bad, right? So it's not my top firewall choice, but it's actually a pretty reasonable firewall.
I mean, we liked Fortinet for a while. I mean, the thing is, unlike cars where you can, or sports teams, you can have a favorite for decades, you got to reevaluate every year. You really got to look and see.
Are you not reevaluating your sports teams every year? Is that?
I'm not. I live in Boston.
My dad reevaluated his Chevy Bel Air every year.
I'm in favor of the Red Sox and anyone who's playing the Yankees.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So the score is 9.3. So if it's so great, this is a pretty heinous attack, according to CVSS. What do you think the STW contagion score might be?
So from my understanding of this flaw, it's not super complicated to exploit, and it can be exploited remotely. So if that's the case, I'm inclined to mark it pretty high. I don't know. I very rarely give out 9s and 10s.
But doesn't it cause it to crash? Doesn't cause remote access, does it?
Gentlemen, let's talk about crashes.
Yeah.
Typically, when you crash a device, there's that can mean and does mean in probably, if I had to throw a number on it, maybe 40 to 50% of the time, that you can garner control over that device. Right? It's just you haven't figured out the right combination of bits for the code to continue running and give you access. You threw random bits in there and it crashed. So it's trying to execute something it shouldn't. And now it's just you got to do some analytics to see if there's enough room for you in there.
Basically, I understand the concept. If you crash it and you know how much memory you have between the memory crash location and the execution block, you can pad it and you can do all those kinds of fun things. But I'm assuming that these guys are using some of the things that Windows uses to block that stuff, like memory sorting and things that make it difficult for that to do. Or is this the old timey stuff?
No. So if you start talking about like security cookies, you guys know about like canary tokens and that sort of stuff, right?
Dosey-dos. Thin mints.
Did he say Doritos?
Samosas.
Now Thin Mints are the best kind of cookies for security.
In the freezer.
Like you throw them in a freezer. Oh my God.
Well, we should probably have an episode on this, in like manipulating a crash to do an exploit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but in sort of a short snippet, what Patrick's talking about here is there are these either canaries or cookies. In Linux, there's security cookies. There might be canary tokens in Windows, where they if you're operating on the stack, they put a random sort of value on the stack that I know what it is, and if it gets overwritten because somebody has blown out the end of a buffer, at the end of a function call, the security stack is checked. Is the canary still intact? And if the canary's dead or the security cookie is overwritten, then they crash, right? And if that's the case...
And somebody's doing something bad.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's the case, then kudos, right? It's crashing because somebody's trying to exploit a buffer, and you're not going to No, I say you're not going to.
This is only because there's a patch. All they got to do is upgrade, right?
They should patch. They should absolutely patch.
So if you have a sonic wall and it's making noise because, let's face it, it's a sonic wall and it's alerting you, then you should patch.
If your sonic wall doesn't stand up, then you should probably
if it falls down, patch.
Right, but just going back, I don't want to rehash all that. The fact that when you read this and it says it crashes, that can mean the end of the story, and all it means is it's a denial of service, or it can mean, and that's how they're going to get full control.
Exactly. Right. We've seen this actually in the past year, where there were exploits released a year or two ago that were just a crash. Go patch, whatever. And some, entrepreneurial malware writer figured out how to manipulate that crash into remote access, remote code execution. And now it becomes a much more dangerous thing to patch.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
And that's usually Dwayne.
Sorry, that was me. Okay, next story from Bleeping Computer. Chinese Volt Typhoon hackers exploited Versa 0 Day to breach ISPs. That's internet service providers and MSPs. So anytime somebody breaches an ISP, that means everybody that uses that ISP and, Comcast, Xfinity is screwed.
It's a supply chain attack, which is what we've really dreaded. Because who knows which clients... How many of us know what our MSPs are actually defending against?
Oh, first of all, what's an MSP? I know what an ISP is, but
managed solution provider. Basically somebody that takes care of your networks and your websites. And
yeah, so if you let's say we were all dentists, right? And we're not coders, we're not network guys. We would probably need email, and we'd probably need computers to keep whatever those X-ray machines that keep bombarding your teeth with. Whatever. When the hygienist runs out of the room to push the button, I always think to myself, should I have this gun pointing at my head? But
damn it, where's the X-ray film? I can't find the X-ray film.
Right?
I hit gamma ray by accident.
So we wouldn't probably put in our own network, right? We wouldn't put in all of our own computers and that sort of stuff. So usually what you do is you hire an MSP. Then they're either a managed solution provider or a managed service provider, where they will manage installing the computers, installing the printers, making sure they're up and running, making sure they're patched, and making sure, you're getting internet, right? So MSPs have kind of the keys to the kingdom. And we've seen some MSPs get breached. We know of a personal story, which we won't go through, of an MSP getting breached in a northeastern state that took out all their customers. Because once you get access to the MSP, you get access to everybody that they're providing service to.
Wow.
No bueno.
No bueno.
So this is, again, we've got, a certain nation being, naughty. And I think we're going to see more of that. I think we need to start getting familiar with, who our ISPs are, who our MSPs are. Who do you trust? Because that's who they'll betray you through.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Yep, I agree. And in this particular one, they talk about small routers. This probably isn't, Bank of America, right? They're not running small home style routers. This is probably more, and this is kind of an important advisory to anybody listening who has a small to medium business. These are probably devices that you would run at a branch office, right? If we had 10 dentist offices, we would run one of these types of devices there. So you want to be careful there.
And they say upgrading to the latest version fixes it, but there isn't any CVE score here.
No, it's just general advisory because they call them SOHO devices. They're just small office, home office, just small firewall devices that need to go and get patched.
Okay, Bleeping Computer says South Korean hackers exploited WPS Office 0-day to deploy malware. What is WPS again?
Take it away. It's bad. He loves it, so it must be bad.
What is WPS Office again? And I know it's the Windows version of it. But.
Yeah, it's an alternative to Microsoft Office.
Yeah. WPS is Office Free Office.
Okay. It's like it started as a Linux thing.
Yeah. What was the one when we were kids? What was
Open
it?
Office
software. Open Office. Star Office. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So needless to say, the thing I really like about this is, listen, we've seen Word documents and Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoints and all that good stuff have macros, right? And nobody runs VBA macros anymore, but there's still ways of manipulating it and sending it out and getting old versions of Word to run malicious software when you double click on the document and try and run it. And Microsoft's gotten really good about disabling all that. If you guys have ever received a document that has the mark of the web, like came over email, came over the web or whatever, when you open the document, the first thing it says is this document is disabled. You can't save it. You can't print it. You can't do anything until you say enable, right? It's trying to protect the normal user from malicious software running. But what's really neat about Windows is there are a ton of protocols in Windows.
Right.
So we all know a couple of them, right? HTTP is a protocol.
File:// File:
is a protocol. Right? HTTPS is a protocol. FTP:// is a protocol, right? Yeah. There's probably 200 or 300 of them.
Yeah, we touched on this in an earlier episode. I can't remember which one, but it was a similar thing. It was embedding links with different protocols in documents that they get people to click on.
Oh my gosh, there's so many amazing protocols out there. And there are so many that have really fallen by the wayside, and I think nobody patches. Like, we were at one point manipulating one of them that actually opens up the contact book on Windows for your fax machine. So there's a protocol for that will just open that up. And, you find an exploit in one of these old contact books, and sure enough, it'll run on any Windows computer.
Print spoolers.
Nobody's looked at it. Yeah, print spooler. Absolutely. So there's all sorts of really cool ones. This particular one is a software custom protocol handler for KSO QING://.
Never heard of it.
Right? But what happens is it attempts to load a KSO JS core.dll that generally doesn't exist on the system. So if you put a DLL there, when you call this protocol, it will try and find it in all of the available paths, and it'll go, oh, I see it. It's right here. And it'll run whatever code is there.
It's dangerous.
So it's a really, really kind of a cool way to have...
Cool. That's cool, kids. Be like this. Be like this malware and be cool.
Right?
Forget about them cigarettes.
Listen,
cool.
You know how I said I have favorite firewalls? If I had favorite attacks, right? My favorite attacks are side channel attacks. We've already talked about that.
All right, we got to
really
give it a Dwayne's awesome score from 0.
But right behind side channel attacks is protocol attacks, because these are just, they're like the forgotten children of Windows that nobody remembered. You could yell their name and they'll do things for you. And then, lo and behold, they'll take over your system. So,
yeah. Okay. So no score here either, right?
Nope.
But, so.
Yeah. And honestly, even the patch for this is reasonably terrible. So, what we would fall back on here at Security This Week is to say, be careful, obviously, what you click on, right? If you are not expecting someone to send you a WPS Office document, don't click on it. Don't open it. Don't try and run it.
Good advice in all situations, every day.
But here's what's not fair. This WPS Office productivity suite developed by Chinese firm Kingsoft, popular in Asia, and it supposedly has over 500 million active users worldwide. How many of them do you think listen to Security This Week?
Oh, less than half.
I'm thinking 0.
Less than half.
Well,
less than half is accurate.
Less than half.
See,
Yeah, Patrick and I were both right. See?
Yeah. My math is impeccable.
Less than half.
It's deceiving, but it's impeccable.
So would the answer to be to do more marketing in China?
Yes.
No, what the hell am I saying?
Right?
No, we don't want them listening.
I think wait, hold on though.
Have you heard the stuff that comes out of Dwayne's mouth? There's no way we should be in China.
Well, I thought you were going to say my mouth.
Wait, hold on. I think the general population of China are really great people.
They are.
I'm
of
just
course
throwing
they
that
are.
out
Fantastic.
there, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's just a couple of those guys up top.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Or one.
Yeah.
Maybe one.
You hear that?
Yes, that
That's it.
we know it's not a
missile?
tomahawk.
Helicopters coming over Patrick's house. All right. So should we do Dick's Sporting Goods now and then take a break? Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. So who wants this story?
This is a quick one. So Dick's Sporting Goods says they had a sensitive data exposed. They have not revealed whether it's customer information, but it sounds like they caught it before things could be encrypted. And so it very well might have gotten, how they're going to dress the mannequins next month, and other sensitive information.
What I don't understand about this one though is we always tell customers you got to be careful about when and what you say to your end customer.
Right.
If you get breached as an organization, you're legally liable for anything you say. And this message here is yes, we got breached, but we don't know how. We don't know what they got.
No, did they say they don't know how? They haven't revealed how.
I read they don't know how. They were unsure
the company
on
has
how
no
the
knowledge
attack.
that this incident.
They have
they
no
say.
knowledge how the attackers got access to the network.
That's a pretty good policy to say that though. Right.
I think
after
it
an
may
attack.
be that they're
we
not
think
sure
we
yet,
know.
and so therefore they need to They needed to file this with the Securities Exchange.
We think
Yes.
Dick
Because
in
they're public
administration knows, but we're going to talk to him. We'll get back to you. They're not
Right,
going to say
exactly.
that. They're going to say, no,
No.
we had no idea.
Well,
No.
maybe the executive who issued the SEC thing left the meeting before they could tell him how they breached.
I wonder though, like how.
We've seen that.
he went to Sonic for
Yeah,
ice.
that's true. Ooh.
Yeah, he's like, you're talking about the incident? I'm leaving.
Okay, I'm going to
Time
write a
report.
report.
Go. So it'll be interesting to see how this actually turns out. But my guess, if it were me, my guess, this was a phishing email that turned into ransomware. That's my guess. Somebody sent an email and clicked on something they shouldn't have.
Yeah, it's very vague, but that's a good guess.
We'll keep an eye on it.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Maybe it's a master hacker who broke through all the firewalls and then implanted code to run. But
It's a low bar, but they reported.
Yeah.
They did. They did.
Give 'em props
And
for
we
that.
know
Wow.
other companies that didn't.
yeah, that's
And,
true.
And so
you know what?
they reported. They said, and they it's light on details, but the time when the time comes, I think we'll find out more.
So Dick's gets a bronze star, not the gold star, but they get the bronze star.
they get a
They
bronze
get
sticker.
the green check
Bronze
mark.
star is actually a award for heroism. We're not giving
Oh, there you
them
go.
that.
Yeah, no, they get the bronze sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Like it's third grade and they did their homework, but
That's
they didn't
right.
do it well.
Yeah.
And you can buy those bronze stickers, ladies and gentlemen, at Dick's Sporting Goods for 79 cents at the checkout counter.
That's sensitive information. You're not supposed to have that data.
I got that out of this breach.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back with more Security This Week after these very important messages. All right, we're back. You're listening to Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin with Patrick Hines and Dwayne LaFlotte. And just a reminder, if you don't want to hear these ads anymore, you can get an ad-free feed for $5 a month by becoming a patron. Go to patreon.securitysthisweek.com to sign up. All right.
Or if you like these ads, we can just do a whole podcast of just ads.
Ooh.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
If you act now.
You'd have to pay us $5. Or we'd have to pay you $5.
There we go.
listen
Just
to that. That's
to
what I meant.
listen to us talk.
All right, so this is a story of intrigue and trickiness and dumb criminal all at the same time.
Wait, which one are we talking about?
Employee arrested for locking Windows admins
yeah.
out of 254 servers in an extortion plot. Guess what? Didn't work.
Yeah.
Not only didn't it work,
work.
he left all sorts of evidence. Like tons
Yeah,
of evidence,
dumb
including
criminal.
a VM where he did the searches for the commands in order to carry it out.
Oof. Now, this guy clearly has never heard the theme song for.
Honestly, there were so many ways to encrypt this and not have it come back to him.
He worked. He had a laptop, and he accessed a hidden VM. Why would you do searches like this on a VM? It sounded like the VM was like hosted at the company. So he disabled. He locked out admin accounts. He locked out workstation admins, domain admins, and he was going to disable, shut down 10 of their servers a day unless they paid him 20 Bitcoin, which is about $700,000.
Wow!
Oof. And in the end, the fine is going to be about $700,000.
That's awesome.
I get the impression from reading the whole article that he didn't actually get away. Like he didn't succeed. They found like some way to stop him, or something didn't complete correctly.
Right. Or they had, backups like everybody does. Or should.
Well, it's supposedly he deleted the backups, or at least they attempted. But he's trying to do this all with scheduled tasks.
Oof.
And we know that they don't always work as planned.
Yeah. No. That's bold, though, right? To ransomware your employer. I don't know how mad you got to get at your employer to be like,
and then send him an email.
Right. Where you're like, this is totally not me. They're like, John, we see you typing like right now. And no, but it's not John. Stop looking at John.
John, you're in a physical meeting and we're here looking over your shoulder.
We're literally watching you type as the hackers are typing to us asking for things.
That's not me. I'm not here.
The script is literally named extortion.
As he slides the curtain again.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm very thankful that people like this are idiots, because otherwise we'd be harder to catch.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And he's a U.S. based. He's in Missouri.
Oh, so he's got that going for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kansas City Federal Court. And it was a New Jersey company. So this is all homegrown.
Yeah. Woo. All right. Don't do like him.
This guy should have been listening to Security This Week. I'm just saying.
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah. Right.
All right,
canceling his access.
Yep. Okay, so this one's pretty interesting. Iranian hackers use new tickler malware for intelligence gathering.
The Iranian tickler. That's entirely a different thing.
What I was really interested in is whether they wrote this themselves or they took a botnet and used it, or they took some of the exposed code. I'd love to know the quality of the malware coming out of Iran, whether they have really good teams or not.
Isn't the tickler a Batman foe?
I think you're thinking the Riddler, but the tickler would be an awesome Batman villain. But you got
the Joker, the Riddler, the tickler fits
the
right
tickler,
in.
It's all in there.
That would have been so
honestly,
great, wouldn't it?
It would be fantastic.
He's as the tickler.
Sorry. This is what I bring to the table, ladies and gentlemen.
When you read these articles, though, they kind of they read like a cartoon. Microsoft has observed Peach Sandstorm using a new piece of malware that has been named the Tickler.
Bang!
Kaplunk!
Kerplow!
And they're targeting US and UAE, which are both nemesis.
Yep. So US and UAE. Yep. Satellite communications equipment, government, oil and gas. Which honestly not surprising. Some of the oil. So there's a big issue in IoT networks when we start talking about industrial controls. So anything in oil, anything in gas, anything power grid related, dams, public works, sewage treatment plants. Like a lot of those installations have such aged equipment that the only way that they're protected is by air gapping them. Like literally, the network that has all of the controllers, the PLC controllers and whatnot that, control the valves in this dam can't be accessed from the internet, right? Just completely separate. And there's a buddy of mine. I was actually talking to him. He's actually on the IoT Defender podcast, and he was saying, a lot of times we'll run into doing an audit, and the engineers will go in. We'll say, okay, this is your network. It's all set up, and what's that over there? And they're like, oh, that's a switch I put in, a wireless access point. And they're like, but like you can't You can't put that in there. And he's like, no, man, it sucked to have to walk all the way down to the pumps all the time. So I just put this wireless access point in, and now I can administer it anywhere. It's like, but
it's very
so
convenient.
can everyone else. Yeah, but it's secret.
I know,
I don't
right?
tell anybody.
Yeah, I don't broadcast the SSID.
Yeah, so you gotta be careful. A lot of these, like I said, and the problem with these types of installations like gas and oil and that sort of stuff is there's a lot of standards as to what type of equipment you can run in those locations, depending on, either its conditions. There's a lot of dirty locations, like literally dirt, oil, sand, dust. So you're running these industrial control systems, and they may be running on like embedded Windows XP, right? So not much you can do to upgrade that or patch it. So yeah. Not a surprise that there's targets of those types of systems.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's just a story. There isn't anything anybody can do about that except worry more than they should, right?
It's just the drinking water and oil and gas.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Yeah, it's fine. Just
no biggie.
Ask your congressman to, I don't know.
All right,
what did you make of this? The next one, the poor try driver evolves into a full-featured EDR wiper.
I love this one.
All right. Well, first of all, I know what wiping is because I'm old, and I know what I don't know.
You're gonna make a potty joke.
You need more fiber.
Like
Dwayne, a potty joke.
A lot of fiber.
You're basically talking like somebody 30 years older than you actually are. So, EDR, what is that?
So an EDR is an endpoint detection and response system. So think like antivirus, but kind of a little bit more capable.
More comprehensive.
Yep.
All right. So the Windows driver called Portry evolved into a full-featured EDR wiper. So basically, it's like your antivirus killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Portry, also known as burnt cigar, is...
Yeah, it's nice accent.
Thank you.
Wouldn't think you're from New Hampshire.
Burnt cigar.
Burnt cigar.
Isn't that a candle, a Yankee candle scent?
Yeah, it is.
Burnt
cigar.
Absolutely.
It's like cigarette ash and burnt cigar. So what I love about this story is, I can't admit to that. There are security companies in the past that have created Microsoft signed drivers that.
Oh yeah.
Well, you just admitted to it. What do you mean?
I'm not saying it was me.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's happened.
But you say
where they get Microsoft to sign a driver.
Some people who will not be named, wasn't me,
to compromise. So this is actually, this is like right out of the playbook.
It's hard to do.
It is hard to do.
It is hard to do.
But they got a driver signed by Microsoft that they can then, when they go to install it in the system, Windows trusts it because it's a signed driver that's been tested. Mm-hmm. So it's just finding ways around the Microsoft driver signing process, whether that's spinning up a company that's a fake shell and having it then create drivers.
You kind of need the company to have an existence record, like a track record. If you just spin up a company yesterday, that doesn't work so well. So you got to buy a company that's been around for a while, which is certainly within the capabilities of an advanced persistent threat.
Yeah, or a hardware company. Like I remember there was one hardware company in Taiwan about 2, maybe 3 years ago, where APTs had actually breached the physical building and stole the signing keys so that they could sign drivers with this. Right? Because the company was a legitimate hardware company. They had legitimate drivers for their software and they had legitimate signing certificates. So they said, well, we'll just break into the building and steal the certificate and then we'll sign our malware.
Okay.
And there is a mechanism for like invalidating those those signing certificates. It's very hit or miss whether companies have the up-to-date revocation lists, and it's technically possible, but do you know, when's the last time you saw a company that was maniacal about their revocation list?
Oh,
it's
almost
been a while.
never. Yeah, absolutely.
I wondered how they got their certificate in the first place, so they stole it, so that makes sense.
In this particular one, they actually have multiple certificates. They actually, what was the tactic? The attackers were seen employing a tactic known as certificate roulette.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they deploy multiple variants of the same payload, just signed by different certificates, and hope that one of them passes.
So does Microsoft have a wiper?
They do not.
Because it's a driver, right?
Yeah, my guess is a lot of the EDRs are going to pick this up almost immediately now as a bad driver. But there are plenty of drivers out there. When a security company was doing its research.
Careful, Dwayne. Careful. Don't say me. Don't say I.
There were plenty of drivers they found out on the internet that were signed, that were from either old pieces of software that are now defunct companies, or old like game drivers. Think like anti-cheat drivers. Like those are hardcore in the kernel, watching what's going on, that have exploits in them. Like literally, they never tested for this buffer overrun, right?
That are well documented.
So you would install the game, right, which is signed, and then exploit the driver. So there's all sorts of ways to use even legitimate drivers if the driver companies aren't actually doing code reviews and security audits and that sort of stuff.
So the problem with this is like if you get your certificate and, the user says, do you want to always trust, drivers from Dwayne Incorporated? Yes or no? And you say yes, then any other drivers that they install could be malicious. And there isn't anything you can do about it, really, because there's no like I said, a wiper. There's nothing that can watch a driver or hook a driver and make sure that it's not doing anything right. That's why it's a driver. It's so low level that it can't be monitored. It can't be whatever. You can only observe the bad things that it does.
Which is why this is news. It's a tool in the book of the bad guys. Now, they've got to get it deployed, but you click on the wrong thing. You got the access, so it's just another nefarious tool.
So the only thing I found that was, I always find these interesting, but one of the things I found that was interesting is in this particular EDR wiper, they hard coded the path to the critical DLLs for the EDR. So let's say it's Windows Defender is the EDR. They'd hard code the path to where Defender is installed. Right? Or they'd hard code the path to where CrowdStrike is installed. So they could delete the one DLL that CrowdStrike needs to run, right? So one suggestion might be don't install in default paths. When you set up CrowdStrike or you set up Defender, install it in a different path. Don't put it in program files x86 / CrowdStrike, right? Because they know where to look for it there. It's a small consolation. There are ways to go through the registry and then find that information. But my guess is one of the reasons it was hard coded here is because at the kernel level, to access user level is a little bit harder. So for them to go into the registry is harder actually than for them just to say, let's just go rub these things off the drive and delete them.
It's like always taking a different route if you're an assassination threat.
Yep.
All right. In our clickbait today, you guys have heard of Patch Tuesday. Well, how about Unpatch Wednesday?
Downgrade. Downdate.
Yes, kids. If those pesky Windows patches are saving your computer, you too can downgrade it to any date you want.
Well, this is another in the category of scary tools because there was a talk at Black Hat, I think it was. And the guy who's been talking about this for a while has now released it.
Yeah, and I know we had touched on this like a few weeks ago when he had announced the fact that he had this Downdate tool that would literally roll Windows servers and computers back to a prior version where they were vulnerable to a particular exploit. But he had never released the tool until recently. Actually, Black Hat just wrapped up a few weeks ago.
So did he at least publish the source?
I think it's Python.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, but is it open source though?
My guess is yes, but hold on.
Yeah, I believe the source is part.
Wait, 2 seconds. I'll tell you. Yeah, it is Python. Windows Downdate Python. Oh, look at that. Oh, and then there's that piece.
So how do you protect against that? Is there anything that you can put in your computer that says, hey, here's the signature for this executable, don't let it run?
I think eventually you're going to see antiviruses and endpoint protection is going to get there, but I'm betting that it's a little bit behind.
Yeah, and if I had any of these types of tools typically require administrative access. And you say to yourself, well, dude, if I have to be an admin anyways, I already own the box, so what do I care?
Yeah, right.
And the problem is part of hacking, so the first part of hacking kids, is information gathering. The second part is to get an initial foothold, but usually you're like a guest or a normal user or whatever it may be. The third part is privilege escalation, try and get to a higher level account like admin. The fourth part is persistence. How do I stay there? I don't want somebody ripping me off the network before I can move around laterally and start stealing things. So this is that fourth piece, which is, how do I get to persistence? Well, if I can downgrade the OS and then install things that now aren't even recognized or exploit, like the printer. Remember Print Nightmare? We talked about a while ago. Well, that's been patched for over a year now, but maybe we can get back to Print Nightmare. So yeah, this is definitely be careful of this and be careful what you still need to run it. But an attacker could gain access to your computer over a phishing email as a normal user, and then run something like this to downgrade your computer so that they could then run something like Print Nightmare, right? And gain full control of the computer.
It basically is a tool that allows them to do whatever they want once they've established a breachhead, including maybe never letting you get rid of them.
Right. So always lock your computer when you go to lunch, kids. In fact, if you get up from your computer at work and go anywhere, what am I talking about at work? Nobody goes to work anymore.
Right.
You know, if you're worried about someone in your house,
what is this work of which you speak?
Running Downdate on your computer while you're in the bathroom, lock it.
Right. And on it, like, all of the normal things apply here. Don't click on things you shouldn't be clicking on. Don't run as an administrator on your computer if you can help it. You know, do reviews of your computer and what's installed. The normal stuff. Don't click on anything. And if you receive an email from security this week, it probably has an exploit in it. So there you go.
Yeah, so don't do that.
Don't click on it.
All right. We won't send you email. Don't worry. All right. I guess that's it. Another fun week in security breaches has come to an end. We will see you next time.
Awesome.
On Security This Week. Bye-bye.
Bye,
guys.